Welcome to the world of Level Up Weekly, a bounteous, open podcast filled with amazing loot, legitimately challenging enemies, but not too difficult to defeat, and of course, the EXP. Join our fellow big headphone adventurers Dylan the Dude and Spurnaday as they journey on a quest to find the EXP from gaming news and discussion. Hello everybody, welcome to Level Up Weekly, your weekly XP for gaming news, and today we come with a package that allegedly was teased on Twitter that it was full of puppies and kittens and rainbows and unicorns and the likelihood that the Florida Mayhem were going to be good over the Overwatch League. I didn't say that. It was in the script. Thanks, Dylan, for writing that for us. Right? Something like that, Dylan?
Don't worry, Spernaday. If you have to talk negatively about my Florida Mayhem, I've got some great material to fire back at you later.
Don't worry about it. I only bought like a couple extra new skins for the Dallas Fuel, not because I'm a diehard fan of them or anything like that. You know, I'm not an XQC fan anyway. Today with the show with us today, we have a special treat for you. We got an opportunity. You may remember her from previous times, but not to our radio folk. This is Jen Dalton, aka Fleek. Is it just Fleek? Is her username correct?
That works. It's easier that way.
Sure. You can say OnFleek, like, you know, your eyebrows, my beard game, my hair game, Dylan's hair game. Yeah, we can kind of just keep going with that. But anyway, this is Jen Dalton from Onslaught Esports, who is basically a giant enthusiast with Overwatch League. And of course, like we kind of teased about last week, we're going to get the opportunity this week to kind of talk about more when it comes to what we thought about the first week, official week into Overwatch League, and what kind of impact that's made not only in the Overwatch community, but more importantly, in the esports community as well. So we'll give our take on it, analyze the first week, what we thought about, what we liked, what we didn't like, and, you know, jab at each other's favorite teams and, you know, just the whole like to it. But we're going to start before we get to that, though. Jen, if you kind of want to just give a description of what you do for Onslaught again and just kind of give everybody a familiarity of who you are so that, you know, the people that have listened to me and Dylan for a few weeks going now are like, I don't know who this person is, but she sounds interesting.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. I'm Jen. I've been with Onslaught Esports, and we are a professional esports organization. I'm a co-owner, and my official title, because that sounds too bougie, is COO. So I kind of have a hand in pretty much all of the daily workings, whether it's our players and helping them with whatever they may need. And being the best cheerleader is probably my number one attribute. Scouting and recruiting, working with partners and our designers, and also just our stream talent, because I think we have some of the best, not to be biased, we have some of the best content creators out there. And if anyone's familiar or unfamiliar with us, some of our notable markings have been the Rainbow Six. A cool thing my favorite story is we had a Rainbow Six team a few seasons ago that actually was number 2 in North America and number 4 in the world. And they have the big championships, though the top 4 and all that go to Poland. And the night that they qualified for that, I was sitting in my living room, yelling at the TV, watching it streaming, and I actually cried when they won, and because that meant they got to go to Poland and compete at that level, and they were big underdogs. So I'm an underdog kind of person. Also big in Call of Duty, one of the inaugural seasons of Smite, Battle Right for a little while. We have Hearthstone players too, and like I said, the coolest stream team.
Yeah,
not to mention a huge Overwatch fan.
I mean, that's 90% of the reason that we brought. No, actually, I wouldn't say that. It was probably about 40 to 50% of the reason that we brought you on. Yeah, great, congratulations. Okay, sure, we'll go with 90. It's great to be around, though. I mean, your Rainbow Six team talking to you was a really cool thing to see, because you guys aren't necessarily on the same level that Cloud9 or G2, NRG, some of the big dudes that have, multi-million dollar investors behind their companies. I mean, you guys aren't that level, but to see that your team went on and was able to be as successful as they were. Rainbow Six was a great example. I know your esports organization, we said this before in Dungeon Grind, how I knew your organization from Rocket League. I don't think you guys have a team anymore, if I'm correct on that. Is that right?
They're working through some, we still love those guys and support those guys, and they're working through. We have some, position moves, moving into more of a coaching role. Just school and life comes up, and everybody understands that. And I think we probably maybe understand that the most, because myself and my counterpart Patrick, like you said, we're not, we don't have a former NBA player behind us here. So we both have, normal 9 to 5. So we're just there. We're helping and helping any way we can, and make sure that they can do what they want to do and stay involved however they want to.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to have. In worst case scenario, you're an organization that's there. You're trying to give your players a team name. You're trying to give your players an individual name and a brand to fall underneath, and just to really give them the recognition that they deserve. At the very least, that's what an esports organization can provide. So, kudos to you guys so far. I've always been impressed to see what you guys have come up with, for sure.
Plus, dragons are pretty cool.
Yeah, dragons are pretty cool. The orange and blue concept was a good idea. What, in most cases, elaborate, Dylan.
Well,
unless you're talking about the ones from Shanghai, then
exactly.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
That was a good segue. I should have saved that one.
We're gonna have a lot of I'll use the term creative segues into this sequence. But so ideally today's conversation that we're gonna go with is to talk a lot about Overwatch League, and to see what its first week has had an impact on, not only in obviously the teams that have competed. We're going to go through what we thought about each day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday's games. We'll probably talk about our favorite teams, and we'll talk about our least favorite teams. I'll probably make fun of Dylan for supporting the Mayhem, and he'll make fun of me for supporting Dallas Fuel. So something like that's going to happen. You'll see that happen on a couple more of our episodes coming up here, as we do want to keep a coverage of Overwatch League as this time progresses. But to keep in note, of course, we are a pretty, round-based type of podcast. So we'll of course cover our topics as time goes along too. I just want to say one thing though, before we go into Overwatch League, if I could, is that CES 2018 was fun, but CES 2018 is, I don't know, it just wasn't that fun this year, because the main highlight that I just want to point out was a video I saw from Linus Tech Tips, that there is a booth showing these guys who invented RGB fans that turn a picture into a 3D model, and you can watch it like as if it's actually happening in front of you. And it is one of the coolest things in the world. Let me see if I can link it to you guys so you can watch it real quick, because oh my gosh, this thing is crazy.
Like a little holograph?
Yeah, basically.
I do remember seeing that. I've been following a little bit of CS stuff. It was very interesting, but to me, I've always been burned on new technological advancements that are announced at conventions or big things like this, because usually they take a little bit more time to practically design and make, for good use for people like us who don't necessarily have, a ton of money. I mean, Jordan and I here are poor college students.
Yeah, but I mean, that's real.
But it does really excite me that maybe in 3-4 years after I graduate, I'll be able to look at stuff like this and, maybe have a practical application for it in my own home or in my own life.
And feel like the little Anna spray of the little holograph.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly.
I saw a lot of the and I know this is so specific, the Kohler brand, the like smart home devices, and it just kept saying like smart bathroom. And at first I was like, well, what do you what? And I think it was rather specific. It wasn't just bathrooms because it that definitely prompted me. So kudos for them if that was like a marketing technique where they wanted you to be like, huh? And then further research it. But it was more so like, all the light bulbs and the this and that connect to all of the random the Echo and the Google Home, and I know Apple has the stuff too, but I will say that one was a little odd that it was like smart bathroom. I was like, what does it do for me? Will it wash my hair for me? Because that I would get.
Flush.
See,
Just
I have a lot of hair. If it did that for me, that could like cut off some time for me in my day. But it's more like that, like the sink and the light bulbs and stuff. So I kind of lost interest pretty quickly when I found out it's not going to do things for me that I want.
if someone could make a smart device that would allow me to trim my beard to be a consistent level, oh my goodness, you're giving me great ideas. I'll invent this, guys. It's fine. Just let me take care of it.
That would be great. Instead of my fiance coming up to me after he does that and he's like, "Can you check? Is the line on my neck, is that straight?" And I'm like looking up, I'm like, I don't, yes? Question mark?
Sure. In my opinion, it looks amazing. Now, don't ask me this question again. But anyway,
Exactly.
enough about facial hair and enough about long hair problems and enough about smart bathrooms. It's time to talk about some Overwatch League. We
Jordan,
cut into
you
it.
say that Jordan, you say that you're going to, you'll start working on that. I don't know if a fan of the Dallas Fuel is necessarily wise enough to create something like that.
Hey man, I don't know what you're
Shots
talking about.
fired.
I don't know what you're talking about. You guys are just out here
There's also a
struggling.
lot of
On
opportunities
every
here.
single video that I've clicked so far, they're just like, please play this audio. Come on, bruh. I just want to look at the match details. I pull up like 4 links, and all of a sudden, like a clip from their shoutcasting occurred every single time. But anyway, stop talking about my freaking Dallas Fuel, because let me tell you, watching that Houston Outlaws and Dallas Fuel game was probably one of my favorite things. But let's get to that in a second. What we're going to do first is we're going to go through the Wednesday's events. So the inaugural, start of the season, basically, and our thoughts there. And then we're going to go on as each day progresses and just kind of give ourselves the recap to each time that goes on. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first one is my favorite part is when Florida lost to San Francisco. I'm just kidding. It was an interesting match to start it out with. One of the things that I'm very happy with is that Overwatch Esports, and we sort of talked about this before, when they finally integrated the patch to start making viewership a lot easier, spectating more specifically in Overwatch, games have been a lot nicer to watch. And for me, a guy that maybe plays Overwatch comparatively what it was beforehand, an astronomical amount of time, it's nice to see that this game is now a lot better to spectate with. It's more distinctive on who's a part of what. It's not, you're not really sure whose shields is whose. You're able to just differentiate everything. So to start with, for me, it was just great to see that not only was the production value indeed a multi-million-dollar suite to see what we have at Overwatch League right now, but just to see that the quality of the gameplay and matches that we've seen was as high as it was.
Even just the stage was beautiful, going from preseason where, it was beautiful, obviously, and that there's huge screens. And then all of a sudden they threw at us how they had the map art behind them where, you felt like you were in Temple of Anubis when they were starting. Like, even just that was just absolutely amazing to me. And I'm very jealous of anyone that was there in person.
It was a very cool production-wise. I thought they did a very good job. It was one of the first things I noticed when I was watching it. I was just expecting kind of, what I've seen for League or what I've seen for Rocket League. Just, people going up on stage playing. But when I saw it change to, I think it was Eichenwald was the one that really shook me for how cool the change was. I just fell in love with the production.
And
You feel if you were on that stage or anywhere near that, you probably felt like you were physically in Overwatch. And think about how cool it'll be when Blizz World, you'll feel like you're in,
Oh boy. That'll
as
be a
time
good
progresses, man, it's really cool to just
full circle, the hologram fan.
right. like I showed it. It's in general. If you guys want to like, just skim it while we're kind of talking about this, it's such a cool thing to see esports at this value that it's at now, and it's not even just the production value of things. Like, I remember seeing Ryan Howard, who was an investment of a different. I don't remember which team that he's technically an investor of, but whatever team that he has an investment of. He came in to speak with some of the pro players, and just to see how two worlds collided in just this simple little speech format. I mean, he's going out and saying, "You guys are professionals. Go out and play like it." And to just think about that, how a lot of professional sports teams, investments, and companies are now acknowledging the quality that we see behind some of these shows is a beautiful thing to see. Because this, in my opinion, to see what Overwatch League has brought so far is the opportunity for esports to really go the next step above in any game, in generally speaking. Rocket League, League of Legends, Dota, even Smash Brothers could walk into this realm now. It's really built a platform that's significant and great to see out of it.
And the players themselves are being treated just like real athletes would. The salary cap, or the minimum salary for players in the Overwatch League, is 50 grand, but the San Francisco Shock is going to be paying Sinatra, one of the, a key part of Team USA during the World Cup, 150 grand.
Not only that, but these kids, and I can say kids because I'm old, they get benefits and 401k too, and maybe that
it's a full package. It's healthcare, it's dental, it's
so
retirement, it's the whole thing.
And Ryan Howard is San Francisco, by the way.
He's San Fran. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I know that because he's a Philly baseball player. Used to be.
Oh,
he still plays. Howard still plays. He's not retired yet. I just couldn't remember because I knew he's part of Philly, but I didn't know if he was part of Philly Fusion or not. That's why I was wondering.
He's not. Yeah, he's not ours. So
yeah, he's like Peyton Manning here in Indiana, where he's not here anymore. So that feeling. But with everything being portrayed as this is the next step for esports to truly get into that upper echelon of relevancy. And opening week, concurrent viewers, 450,000 concurrent viewers. That's incredible for a debut.
Yeah, that's actually, I have some stats up here. He's the senior analyst for the Philadelphia Fusion. His name is Ethan. He has his own blog that he's been posting really awesome, just Overwatch stats on. Some of them are hilarious. I'll have to bring up one of them about the Twitch chat. He dissected all of the Twitch chat from the whole weekend long, and just, it's hilarious. I'll have to link that to you guys. But he did a post on the viewership for across the English viewership, the Korean, and the French. And obviously, the English held and had the highest numbers, but the highest concurrent viewership peaked at 426,092.
Wow.
Combined, we sat at 440.
Just to kind of ask, just to make sure, is that stat including the Overwatch League's website's numbers too, or is that purely Twitch?
This is just Twitch, so that's
paint that picture, guys. Paint that picture.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever China's doing too. So yeah,
he only has. Cow. That's just crazy to me. And obviously, some of the numbers dipped here and there, but you have to imagine. In France, some of the matches, even it was like 3 a.m. for them. So, things have that dip and all that, but that's crazy to me. I know another high one was during one of the Seoul Dynasty games. The Korean viewership peaked at, just Korean on Twitch, was 62,000.
Yeah. Only 62,000.
Yeah, but that's that's just, I know there was all these questions of how would this stack up? And it very rarely, the whole, week one, basically very, very rarely dropped below the 300,000 mark for Twitch. And I know, how is this going to progress? Is this going to be as big as it's being painted to be? Because, they have billboards. It's been, it's in the game now. Even if you're just a casual player, whether it's on PC or if you're a console pleb like I am, it's on there too. It's in your face. So even if you're casual, you're like, hey, what is this Overwatch League thing I can click on in the menu now? And I mean, for me personally, any expectation I had in comparison to, preseason, which obviously getting those numbers, it was not streamed on Twitch, so we don't have those, but it's just nuts to me.
We talked about this last week. I'm glad that they moved over to get this on Twitch and got an exclusive partnership with it. Two things actually I want to add to this. MLG Network taking this, great move. I love MLG's just entire production value with esports. I'm glad that they got the ticket for it, and I'm glad that they're the production company for it. But in addition to it, having that Twitch exclusive partnership was the part to me that I said, yep, that's where they should have moved with it, because we got to understand that Twitch has become the esports venue to watch. It's, as I like to put it, it's like the ESPN for esports. And that's the important part to see at the end of the day. Because if you have Twitch, I mean, yeah, it's got its content producers, it's got its streamers. But at the end of the day, I can go and watch Dota International. I can watch the Rocket League Championship Series. I can go and watch the LCS. I think they moved to their own website, but it is still on Twitch. But I can watch all of this and be centralized. And that's the part to me that's really, the part that I was glad to see, because Overwatch League needed to be part of Twitch, in my opinion, to really see that rampant success. And so thank goodness for that. You get viewership bonuses out of it. We kind of talked about this last week, so we won't talk a lot about the Twitch integration, but, just to summarize it, like, I'm glad that happened.
And they couldn't have signed that deal a moment too soon. It was literally the day before that this was announced. So that was, or the days before. So
it's the smartest thing they could have done in terms of making sure that they're going to pull in those eyes. It's the most accessible. And again, even if you're on console, you can have the Twitch app right there. You can watch it on your phone, on the computer. I mean, like I said, I put it on my big TV in the living room, so I didn't through my I have a Kindle, the Fire Stick.
Yeah.
So I had it on the big TV in the living room, the huge one on the wall, and I'm like, this is amazing. But I even just looked at the Overwatch League Twitch page right now. The January 10th recording, so their video from January 10th has 826,000 views.
Whew.
Just a couple,
No big deal.
It's only 826,000. It's more than I've ever gotten in any form of views that I've ever gotten in anything that I've made. So,
and regularly beats a lot of television programming, because there's some television programming that would kill for numbers like that. So
exactly, and that's just watching it back.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, to go back and just say, this played a lot of success to it, but we tooted its horn, for the last 10, 15 minutes. I want to take a second and just ask the question, was there anything in this first week that you guys saw that you felt like they didn't do right, though? Was there something that you saw that you kind of went, I don't think they should have made that move, or you were just not really happy with, out of all things Twitch chat, just kind of general thoughts, like, what did you not like about the first week, though?
Plat chat, no. The one thing, and
more like silver chat. Have you seen some of those moments? Goodness gracious, they're like my rank right now.
The one thing, and I don't know if I'm alone on this one, but I know they have made huge leaps in their spectator mode to allow anyone to kind of be able to watch it and get it quicker. Obviously your background's Rocket League. I showed my dad Rocket League, and that was a game that he could watch and understand quicker than if I were to show him Overwatch.
Yeah.
You know,
Of
there's
course.
a lot going on in terms of what does that character do? Why are they doing that? Why are they where are they going? How? All of that. But they've made these great changes, like the skins, the awesome skins, which I hope everyone used their 100 free on the Philadelphia Fusion.
I use my 600
Um,
free, something like that.
but you were able to, you know, differentiate the team so much easier. But one thing that I think stuck out for me, and it's kind of tied to that, is every hero's ability was in the color. So a specific one was, you know, the purple kind of the gladiators kind of started to all meld together, and I'm almost curious if it would be better without making the abilities or the bullets or the Winston bubble and the mercy beams and all of that, the team colors, and just kind of leaving them as you and I see them in the game. To me, it kind of muddied the screen. I don't know if you guys kind of remember what it looked like or anything like that.
In my opinion, it could at times, especially a bigger issue with certain teams rather than others. For example, the London Spitfire, a lot of their skins are just so bright, and with their equipment, it just kind of hurts my eyes watching it in
Right.
action.
The
But
skins, yeah, I thought the skins right is more so like the mercy beam and like I said, like the Winston bubble being the specific colors too.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
But I think that's more of an issue for a few teams rather than others, because I know the Valiant, the Outlaws, and the Mayhem. It wasn't as big for them because their
Mm-hmm.
color schemes were a little bit more optimized for it, I guess. It was just kind of some of the odder ones, like the
Mm-hmm.
dark purple, the red sometimes looked weird for the Shanghai.
Yeah. I think the purple one was the one that stuck out to me the most. It was almost like a colorblind option. But
Exactly.
but you start but that those all that like especially like I said a Winston bubble on top of the player skins on top of everything. It was just sometimes you're like, okay, what's happening in there?
you know what? One thing that I actually just kind of thought of when we were talking about this is that teams have their uniforms, and much like there is in regular sports, why not develop a home and away jersey so that when you get that scenario, like you said, you don't see this entire color mesh happen. I don't have a purple versus blue team face off, or when it happens, I don't have Dallas Fuel facing against Uprising and have two blue as can be teams face off against each other and then be like, oh, who's on which side? If you can make it that you have that, I guess you could say home jersey or away jersey depending on your preference, then you can use that opportunity to make a white inverse of what you've had so far. So you still have their logos, you still have their designs, your weapons could possibly say the same. I will agree that sometimes that there's a little bit of a weird color mesh, but I kind of just liked it personally, mainly because it just for me personally watching Overwatch, it's nice to have this this nice what's the word I'm looking for? This nice change to the color scene that you look at. I'm not used to just seeing a blue Orisa shield, and it helps distinguish too. Like if a battle just happened and all I see is this like one poor lonely Orisa shield just sitting out there, I know that Orisa just got absolutely taken out of the equation. So then I know that happened before. Exactly. So the color definition makes sense. I do agree though that it does cause that blur to happen.
And they do have the home and away jerseys for the heroes in game. So, you have the home, being like for the fusion is the bright orange and the black, and then their away is in an inverse for the, in-game skins or jerseys, whatever you want to call them. They're white with the accent colors, which I really hope that those can be bought in game, because I think that would look really cool on Diva, but
I'd say for season 2 that'd be a nice change to see.
But I think the only thing that really stood out to me of where I could, if I had to find a complaint, that it would be just the abilities, like the Winston bubble with a Orisa shield, with a mercy beam, with all that stuff. The colors molded together for certain teams. But I almost wonder, like you said, what if you just did it, almost standardized it of home and away colors, but just why not just use the regular colors. We already know they work. They're in game. Their skins are, orange or white or blue and white.
Yeah,
I think
it helps because I mean
that's a good
that's
point.
what a lot of people put behind it. I mean, if you go to a basketball game, two teams that are red are going to face against each other. It's a difficult thing to differentiate who's who. I mean, yeah, in the game you're obviously going to know who your teammate is and who your enemy is, but we're talking about the people that are just watching this for the first time, so like bring your dad back into this equation. I bring my dad in, but my dad wouldn't understand anything about esports. He'd be like, "Why are kids playing video games?" But no, I don't think he would ever say that. Sorry, but anyway, I think it helps to just clarify who's who in what exactly is going on because. I mean, it's obvious. Like, if I have a purple team and a blue team face against each other, if the Gladiators face Excelsior, or if the Fuel face against Mayhem, I mean, it's fine because we're gonna know who's who. For the Fuel and Mayhem game, we're just gonna know that Fuel is gonna win and Mayhem's gonna lose, so it's fine. I'm just kidding. After this entire performance, there's one game that was a big feat for me that was kind of funny. And I had it a second. There we go. It was the one that Dylan. This was the Friday night one. The first one there. On January 12th. The first one that came up. The freaking Valiant basically against the Fuel. The game where the first game went 8-7, the next game went 5-5, and then it was just completely normal for the next two games. I was like, come on, bruh. How does this work?
Well, it's really funny because going back to what you said originally about things about opening week that we didn't like, I did have one little complaint, and I might be entirely alone on this, but I felt like there were some, and of course this is kind of new, so it's not like everything's gonna be perfect, but I feel like some of the interviewers and announcers felt a little off at times, mostly during interviewers with the players. There were, especially that one girl, Jordan, you and I were talking about this with her.
The girl that
just
looks like
seemed
Tracer.
Yeah, kind
now I
of.
can't remember her name.
Zoe?
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And it could just be growing pains, but I felt like there were some awkward times with interviews with them that could have probably been produced a little bit better or
prepared for.
Yeah, better prepared for, because it kind of seemed like a lot of the interviews were just fly by the seat of their pants and hope to get a good interview out of it. Which, as someone who's worked in radio for 12 years, kind of bugs me a little bit. But I could see it getting a little bit better as time goes on, and hopefully they'll become more experienced. And also, I don't know if either of you guys saw this, but did you guys see when they brought Big Daddy Jeff out?
Oh my goodness, that was another good moment. I'll let you explain this one though.
Jen, do you know what I'm talking about?
Actually, I don't. I did not see this. So
okay,
you didn't see Papa Jeff?
Oh. So all right, so I had it minimized for a minute. I hear them say, and now we have with us the creator, the head of the Overwatch team, and I switch back because I want to see him. and I look at the nameplate, and it said Jeremy Kaplan.
Oh no.
Hey guys, Jeremy Kaplan here, lead developer of the Overwatch team.
Now
that's his brother. Jeff couldn't come out. Like, I don't know why people didn't understand that. Just Jeremy's his brother, twin brother. No one talks about that often, but just Jeremy came out instead of Jeff because Jeff was busy working on the patch updates.
Jeff was grounded. Yeah, Jeff was
after
stuck
the Christmas fireplace thing. He was grounded.
Oh, goodness gracious. I have a fun story about that, Jen. I should share with you. So, a few episodes ago. Hey guys, we're going back to a couple episodes for some history. We discovered that Wallpaper Engine was a silver seller in 2017. So I bought it as a joke because it was $4, and I ended up finding out it was one of the best $4 investments of my life. I found a background, okay, that's Jeff Kaplan at the fireplace, and he'll look at you as soon as you like minimize one of your screens. So I play a game of Overwatch, and then I like leave the game because I'm done or whatever. And then there's Jeff Kaplan just looking directly at me.
Just judging you.
Just looking at the fireplace, being like, so how much SR did you lose today? Did you play Hanzo? I don't like Hanzo. So I got a kick out of that. By the way, the girl's name was Zoe, Dylan.
Zoe, yeah.
Assuming that's how you properly say it. Zoe Geschwin.
Yeah, and again, growing pains, she'll probably get better. Everyone will probably get better as time goes on, and they become more, como se dice, comfortable with this massive, new thing that's going on with the Overwatch League. If I may take this here, Jordan, I'd like to ask Jen a question, a general question, because it's important for the rest of this episode. Did you have any teams that really surprised you going into, now that we've had a full week under our belt, we've seen quite a few games from teams. Is there any team that just really shocked you in either a good way or a bad way?
Well, I know I mentioned, the fusion skin. So I am from the, close enough to Philly that I can claim that as my hometown. So they're my favorite. They're my favorite team. They're my hometown team, all of that. And, them not being able to compete in preseason, we weren't able to see kind of what they were about, how they were going to do. Were they going to come out swinging or any of that? And obviously there was some issues with them being able to get there for preseason, and I believe the San Francisco Shock stepped in for them, which makes sense. Orange, why not? And to see them just have that performance against the Outlaws was awesome. Obviously, I don't know if I want to touch on the opposite against the Spitfire, but things happen. But other than that, I'm super organized, so I have some notes here. But the other three standouts, aside from me being super biased, were definitely Dynasty, Valiant, and New York. And let me pull my proper tab back up here. And
you're correct though. The Seoul Dynasty was kind of like, in my opinion, the expected favorite, being a Korean natured team, correct? Yeah, Korean. Yeah.
2-0. That's what it was. Yeah. So they're all of them were 2-0, but Valiant 7-0 in terms of maps. Dynasty was 6-1, and New York was 6-2. Those are crazy numbers, especially for me. The Dynasty, or Dynasty, as everyone.
Yeah,
and
someone
New York,
says that.
Excelsior. I can't say it like that. It kind of hurt to say that.
We're American. That's what happens.
And then the Excelsior is 6-2. Like those are crazy numbers for me personally. I think they are coming out the bat there. They came out swinging.
And yeah, you're right. Those teams are just phenomenal teams. They're 2-0. Sadly, the team that I like to back, the Florida Mayhem, are 0-2, the reverse of that.
Would you like me to read you the map count for them?
Absolutely, I'd actually like to hear that.
1-7.
That's a little disheartening. But of course,
it's early.
I heard they give participation trophies, so you'll be fine. I'm just kidding. I'm a Dallas Fuel fan, and to be honest with you, I think it just comes down to the fact that my inner brother sibling rivalry is coming out inside of me, and my brother Jake was a Minnesota Vikings fan, and I was a Chicago Bears fan, and before the Bears sucked. So we used to have a friendly rivalry. I think that's coming between me and Dylan right now.
Well, Jordan, it's funny that you mentioned the Dallas Fuel, because both my Florida Mayhem and your Dallas Fuel have the exact same record in terms of,
That's true.
And your team has double or almost double the players that my team has. So I wouldn't be talking too high.
Everything's bigger in Texas, Dylan. You know this. Everything's bigger in Texas. That's why we went with double the roster.
But just to play devil's advocate, I have the preseason numbers as well.
Ooh.
Fuel was 2-0. Mayhem was, again, we're going to reverse those numbers.
0-2, yes.
Uh-huh.
And again, heartbreaking for a Florida Mayhem fan like myself. But actually watching the performance of the Mayhem, I don't believe that they're in such a dire strait yet that they can't come back. They have some of the key players that led the Team USA to where they got in the World Cup, being, of course, Tavik and Logix, two tremendous players that I have really high hope for.
And I think it'll say something that they do have, a lower amount of players than most. So obviously we always want them to be available and ready to play. But you almost, I wonder personally if that's going to be a benefit to them and not a hindrance, because their synergy and how they work together, it's not going to be this, let's trade out so and so for so and so, and you know what I mean. We need Siegel to come in to Hanzo for us, or XQC to come in and be a monkey for us, and Mickey's going to sit out because he was just playing Orisa, but then XQC can play Orisa as well. You know what I mean?
I'm
Things
very
get
happy.
muddy. So I almost wonder if it's a positive that they're always going to be playing together and always know who they're playing with.
I'm very happy that you brought that up, because that's one of my biggest criticisms of the Dallas Fuel right now, is that while the Florida Mayhem may not be winning a lot, they do have a solid team comp. They know their roles. To me, from watching this first week, I don't believe the Dallas Fuel actually know what they want to do. I think they're kind of treating a lot of their players like leaders, with really giving too much thought as to what compositions work, who should play what, who should specialize in what. It just kind of seems like they're trying to get a lot of jack of all trades that don't specialize in much, with a few notable exceptions. But to me, that's probably one of the worst things you can do in a case like this, because it leads to some really bad indecisiveness that cost you 2 games. Soul Dynasty, of course, was a little bit closer than not, only a 2-1. But against the Valiant, they lost some games they shouldn't have won, and it was kind of due to that mix up with their players, not really understanding who should play what on what map. It just led to a lot of crazy, chaotic play that didn't work out for them.
No, I'll second that opinion. I like you said before, having a bigger roster has its pros and its cons, because when you have the bigger roster, obviously you're not trying to just sit a dude and pay him $50,000. So your money wants to be where your mouth is. So you got to try to figure out who's going to be optimal in what position. A couple examples I saw was just to see Siegel playing a couple of his areas. I mean, yeah, he's a flex player, but sometimes it's nice to just have him play his optimal roles. Throw him down in Genji and have a field day or something like that. I mean, XQC, I forgot what scenario. I thought he had to run DPS for a game, and I don't remember what game that was. But, it's great that you have a lot of substitutions that you can make, and that could be really optimal if you have the right coach and the right guy that can say, okay, cool, this is your specialization. What if we put you in for him and then we make this adjustment? If you got a guy that can put that type of lineup together, and a substitution comes in and doesn't make a mistake, but rather just influences and helps your decision, then you're going to help your team out greatly. Did I just make that good of a point? Or
No, I can agree with that to an extent. To me, there are a few other things from week 1 that really stuck with me, and I'd like to ask Jen on a few of these. What did you think of, and you might have not been the first thing in your mind, but were there any players that really surprised you individually from teams? Because for me, Sure4 had a very, very good Widow game for a lot of
oh yes,
a lot of times.
Oh my gosh. That was...
Another one for me is Jay Jonak from the Excelsior. His Zen was absolutely insane, and I wish I could see the stats of it. I wish that stats tab worked. I wish I could see his specific stats, but I know, let's see. So the game against the Outlaws, his Zenyatta, he was 23 and 21. So, 21, but 23 kills just for the Zenyatta. Like, that's his, and I remember vividly, they put a picture of, his little headshot picture and then the little stats next to it. They put that on the screen at one point. He had crazy damage, crazy healing. He was just, and I'm kind of forced into a tank role, I feel like, all the time, because no one ever wants to be, that giant meat shield. So I just kind of take the punishment. But one of my first heroes in Overwatch that I loved playing was Zenyatta. So to see him just absolutely shine, and I mean, they went 2-0, so
of course,
that was just, his Zenyatta was crazy, and I can't wait to see more of it.
Agreed. But there was one player that really did not impress me, and this is I wonder if anyone else noticed this because I just felt really bad when watching the uh, Valiant versus Shock. Sleepy. He was he was the Shock's secondary healer support. Yeah, played a lot of Zen, and good lord, I would attribute the main reason they lost against the Valiant to being kind of his lackluster performance. He was very much out of position in a lot of cases. They were the Widows just kept treating him like a rag doll, picking him off every second. Really
that game was 19 and 41, so 19 kills, 41 deaths.
Oh,
that's not bad at all for a game to go 41 deaths in a flipping round.
I mean, that just because that's Jordan's Tuesday doesn't mean that it's good for the Overwatch League. But
I see how it is. You've never seen me as my Soldier 76, my boy. Actually, you have.
What's an aimbot?
Oh my goodness. What's an aimbot? I can't do that. I'm never allowed to do that again. Dylan, remind me, I'm never allowed to do Widowmaker ever again. But
it was spot on.
Oh, thanks.
I thought it was her.
Yeah, let me just really quickly do a post edit. I won't actually, but let me just do a post edit where I just put in Widowmaker
her
for
real
me.
Voice.
Be like, whoa, he does sound exactly like him. I'm gonna be a Widowmaker impressionist in the future. Professional.
Well, Jen, that actually leads me to another question. Widowmaker being one of the heroes that we saw get the most play, or get at least a decent amount of play here in the first week. Were there any heroes or any kind of strategies that you were surprised you didn't see? Did you see too much of this defined meta we're currently in? Or do you feel like it was a nice mix?
I mean, I'm not a support main. I am a terrible Mercy, so I'll just throw that out there right now. I think last season I ended with like a 13% win rate on Mercy. I'm just bad at Mercy. Just throw it out there. I'll play any other support, but Mercy, I'm bad. So I feel bad, saying this, but she was needed every time. And it's one of those things where articles have come out since where, players aren't exactly thrilled with that being the meta, that, just consistently having to have a Mercy. She is a game changer, though. You can make that mistake and hey, come back. Heroes never die. One of my favorite metas when it was big was that dive comp is, let's do the D.Va and the Winston and the Zen and Lucio and, Genji Tracer. Just get in there and go. And that's more fun to me. And I think it's more fun to watch. But like you said, Widow was used a lot, and there's just people that are crazy with her because she's a game changer. You can get those early picks so quick, and it is also a zoning thing where if there's a Widow and it's a good Widow, you're gonna automatically maybe play a little bit tentatively or play a little bit differently than you normally would. But in terms of maybe what I was not thrilled to see would have been just so much Mercy, and I just hope that maybe down the line with some changes or what have you, that can change.
That's what a lot of these nerfs are going to be very important to see. I don't think, to my knowledge, that the Junkrat and Mercy nerfs have been effective yet. Is that correct?
They've not been implemented in the main servers, no.
When that happens for Mercy, it's going to be interesting then, because I think seeing what's going to happen with the Mercy nerf is going to be a very key component to seeing a new support come into the mix, because now that your Valkyrie isn't as effective as it used to be, that could very well change that. Dylan, you and I highlighted this, that it's cool to see in the professional scene the tank meta that's occurred, where it's a D.Va and Winston, and that traditional outlay of take a Reinhardt and shove yourself into the battle is not really as popular as it used to be. I mean, it's still there, but a lot of what we've seen now is moving over to that meta, and that's the cool part about seeing these professional tournaments is now you get this opportunity to see the meta change happening, like the 4 tank attack that we saw Oh my gosh, I saw that and I was like, is this really going to work? And sure enough, not without a doubt in my mind, it happened.
And even
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say one thing that I kind of almost attribute to the Fusion falling to Spitfire, and it's something that I was kind of yelling at the TV the whole time, was they switched out their support and Dayfly was playing Mercy, and that was in comparison to the other day when he wasn't, and you can tell maybe because that's, and they said that was their strongest Mercy or what have you, but that sort of a change meant Boombox played this, and I think it has a trickle down effect. And in terms of other awesome strats, everybody on Junkertown, pretty much everyone on Junkertown, bringing out Protect the President in true quick play style. I loved that because I love playing Orisa, so I love seeing her played, and maybe now people will stop telling me in competitive to go a real tank and go Reinhardt instead of Orisa.
I was very happy to see a lot of diversity. Yeah, there were a lot of comps that were kind of mainstream meta comps, but we saw some Doomfist thrown in. We saw Sombra played on Temple. However, I believe, looking at the stats, I believe there was only one hero that got absolutely no playtime.
Let me take it. I want to take a guess.
Go right ahead.
Symmetra.
I'd love to say it was Junkrat, but sadly.
My main in Symmetra. Even May got some play, not in the technical game, like for extended periods of time, but on Temple of Anubis to give the Orisa access to the high ground, which I have fallen in love with that strategy personally.
Genius.
It is awesome. But I was very happy to see good diversity. Sfernaday, I didn't ask you much about this, but aside from your doomed Dallas Fuel, who else impressed you over the opening week?
I think Jen said it before. The Valiant was the one that I saw that was like, wow. I mean, you and I sat as like a watch party, Dylan, and I remember here I got to look at the match details or schedule real quick because I have to remember which game that was. Because I remember that there was a game that you and I were watching, and I made this click and I said it to you, where I was like, they're on a tear. It might have been
4-0 against Shock.
You know what? It probably was against the Fuel in that case. Then that whole match sequence where was this? Yeah, this was the one. Yeah, this is the one where they fought 8-7 and then split, and then they just took over the next two games. And I was like, guys, you're on a tear. Like, I'll respect that. No one, I personally never expected the Valiant to play this well. Like, they 4-0'd the Shock right off the bat. And I was like, Overwatch is apparently the first day's theme. And then we go in and see them just play as strong as it did against Dallas, who faced against arguably the number one team that in Overwatch League right now, and go 1-2 with them. That was the tip to me that said, these guys are probably legit and we should respect them a little bit more.
And they did. They went 8-7. Like, that's crazy. And then I did have a note that I wrote for that game on the map, the space map. That's all. It's all only thing I refer to it as a space map only.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The first round, both of those teams, when they had over 6 minutes left to get point B. That's nutty too. So that means like just the overwhelming of like.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my gosh, the stinking match was like, okay, first two sections. It's like 6:30 and 6:13. I'm like, what the? How did this just happen?
Like, over 6 minutes to then try to like finish that off. That was crazy to me. But that was just it was a good matchup, and I think even though it was a 3-0, the Fuel falling in that game, like I do think the Fuel showed, obviously you saw mistakes and you saw the shortcomings, and I think definitely figuring out what roster moves work well and on what map and in what heroes will be a big thing for them. But I think overall they fought a hard fight, and something I always tell my players is you learn from losses. That's where you learn the most. You can use that to learn what you should be doing or shouldn't have been doing, and that's how you grow. I think week 1 I don't think any of these teams can be super bummed out or upset by what they did, because at the end of the day, I couldn't sit up on a stage like that with all those people watching in person and on Twitch and any other thing they're watching on, and play a competitive game like that. And I mean, I can't play on PC, so that would also hinder me. But that aside, that's terrifying. And a lot of these players this is their first, big league and big stage like that. So I don't know, maybe it's too sunshine and rainbows, but I don't think that any of these teams or any of these players should have ended, this long weekend bummed out.
Well, you got to
Everybody
remember
put on a
that this is 20 weeks before we even touch playoffs,
Exactly.
grand finals, and All-Star weekend. Like there's 4 different stages, each are 5 weeks, and it goes off until someone's finally decided to be the champion in playoffs and grand finals. So remember that, like
Oh, yeah.
this is week 1 out of 20. And that's a regular season league. That's why they call it a league. It's not like, okay, cool, 3 weekends later, all right, let's find our champion. This is a legitimate and base system where it takes a third of their, what is it, almost a third of a year, more than a third of a year, something like that.
It's
I
just
can't
one
do
of those
fractions.
things where math is hard. But it's one of those things where, every team wanted to get out there and show everybody what they're made of. And like I said, it's the first time for a lot of these guys. But I don't think anyone should be bummed.
For sure.
And I think that played into, again, going back to my bias here, the Fusion, they didn't get to show what they were made of in the preseason. And I think that played a big part of it. We're the underdogs. We're going to go out there and show them what we're made of. And they did. And it was hard fought on both sides.
And
Indeed.
Jen, that's one reason why I really like the Fusion and the Mayhem at this point. And heck, maybe even Dallas Fuel if they keep on their losing ways. I really love these underdog stories.
Me too.
Which is why for week 2, I am very excited because I'm going to ask you guys both this question in a second. But in week 2, my boys, the Florida Mayhem, are going 1-on-1 with the Seoul Dynasty. Not the Dynasty, the Dynasty. And I'm just that's like a dream matchup for me because I absolutely hate the Seoul Dynasty.
Well, we will find out next week because we are getting close on time, unfortunately. So I don't want to, carry off into the next important conversation. If you want to put your last piece to it, Dylan, I just wanted to give you the warning here. I've only got like a minute and a half.
Of course, we have a short time left, but I just want to ask you guys both this rapid fire question. What matchup are you looking forward to in the coming weeks?
Valiant and Dynasty, my boy. That's going to be exciting. It's already on. Whoa. I'm on stage 2. Hold on, guys. Let me not be stupid. Let me not look at the wrong one. All right, guys. Let me reset myself. Let me reset myself. Your Seoul Dynasty in Florida is going to be an exciting one. But I think the Los Angeles and London Spitfire is also going to be a hype one, too.
I want a rematch. That's what I'm looking forward to. But I also do think, week 4, the Fusion and Valiant are going to go up against each other.
That will be a classic.
That's going to be really exciting because I think player-wise and all that that's going to be super interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait. Can't wait to see more. Thank you very much, Jen. It's been awesome having you, and hopefully we can have you some other time for some more great discussion. Jordan, if you have anything to say.
Obviously, we'll give you a little bit of respect because, you came out on the show. We appreciate your insight. You just launched a blog. It's JenFleek at Duodone, I think is how you do it. DUDAONE.co. You can check out her blog over there or follow her on Twitter at OnFleekEasy. And, of course, you guys know us at Level Up Weekly. Donate and benefit with us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Level Up Weekly. And of course, you can check out this episode now on Twitch. The previous episode plays on Tuesdays, and Thursday's a live episode. And Saturday, you see me and Dylan be a bunch of silly goons. So with that note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today's Level Up Weekly. And tune in next week for your Level Up Weekly experience.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.